Hey everybody, thanks for joining the this month's episode of the What's New at TapClicks. We'll give it a second here to let people join. So let's go ahead and talk about who's hosting today. So it's me and Angela. So if you're a regular of this, my name is Brian Childs, and with me is Angela Hicks. We're both on the product education team. Say hi, Angela.
Hi, everyone. How you doing? Thanks for joining this month.
Yeah, this is great. So Angela and I, we usually go through the release notes and, we prep those and try to find the really important juicy parts for our audience to focus in on. So Angela and I will be covering that today. So if you have any questions, we do encourage you to, send us a chat or ask a question, which is part of our how to participate today discussion. A couple things. So we have a chat box that you can use. You should be able to see the ability to chat. So if you have a question or if you have a comment or you want to share your own thoughts about something, we encourage you to do so. There's also going to be Q&A. So we schedule this thing for, half hour, 45 minutes, and Angela and I are always available at the end to answer more questions, or at least we can field questions that were available to answer, then pass the other ones along to the relevant teams if you do have feedback. And then, like I mentioned, this is recorded. So if you want to listen to our wonderful voices later on, or just reminisce about the latest releases from TapClicks, you can always view the recording later. That'll be sent out shortly after the session is over. So this is about what's being released, and so we encourage you to go and follow along on your own device. You can go to support.tapclicks.com, and then you can go to the release notes section on this page. So when you go to support.tapclicks.com, you'll see there is a category there called release notes, and within the release notes, you'll find all of the releases going back to paleo TapClicks time, but you can find the February 2020 release notes, and this is what we're going to be covering. So we're going to go through and highlight for you some of the big updates that we have, and we might jump around on this page a little bit, but just keep in mind that that's where we're looking at, and that's the information that we're covering. And if you ever have any questions and you're not able to join this session, or if you're interested in what's come out in the past, but by all means, go and peruse our wonderful release notes. We're very happy about those ones. So let's talk about what we're going to be covering today. All right, we got 3 sections, right? It's going to be like 3 acts, 3-act play. The first section that we're going to be discussing is going to be about some updates related to video conversions. So for those of you that are doing video or interested in video or have data sources that do video, or you're tracking engagement on videos, all the things video, we're going to talk about videos for a little bit. Then we're going to move on to some new smart connector templates. Now, these are things that you'll probably see on a regular basis. So almost every single month, you're going to see smart connector templates coming out. If you're not familiar with smart connector templates are, we're going to describe what the smart connector template does and then point you in the right direction of what those new things are. And then the last section, we're going to help as it relates to others. We see a lot of data source updates, but we're going to answer both what are those data source updates as well as what metrics are available by data source, which is a very common question that our success and support team gets asked. So we're going to show you how to answer that as it relates to the new data sources. But let's start out with the first section, which is going to be covered by Angela. So Angela, take it away. Tell us about video conversions.
Video conversions. I cannot wait to get into this. So, Brian, for those of you that are following along, you can see towards the top of our release notes, Google Ads, we have some new conversion fields around video. This is great. So for those of you that are using Google Ads and happen to be doing some video marketing, we have new fields around conversions. So all conversions, all conversion rate, and cost per all for all of those conversions. So really, Brian, what this means is that you're going to be able to visualize which videos have driven the most conversions when you're doing your reporting for your end clients. And you'll see on the screen here, we've written out that not every conversion action is equal, but you can track it all with these conversions. So, watching a video and filling out a form on a website or actually making a purchase. Not all of those actions are equal, but it is great to be able to see it all
When you
together.
when you say equal, do you mean of equal value, or what do you mean by when you say not every conversion action is equal? Is that come from the way Google Ads describes it, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so we are referring to the value here.
Hmm,
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely.
So it's important to kind of dissect those a little bit more and get some better view on what those different conversion types are. Sounds like.
Correct.
Nice.
Now, within Google Ads, there are a lot of metrics. And when you have this connected to TapClicks, you will find these new fields in the video data view.
Hmm.
So, Brian, I think it's time for
Uh-oh. Oh, is it a lingo bingo?
Lingo Bingo.
Lingo bingo.
Lingo Bingo.
Oh
Yes,
man, I
time
love
for
lingo
Lingo
bingo.
Bingo. For those of you that have joined us before, we're going to dissect what a data view is. But this time, rather than Brian and I just talking through what a data view is, we want to poll the audience and see
Hmm.
what you know about the data view. So for those of you that are attending, I'm going to launch this poll. Um, Take a look at these and tell us what you think the best definition of a data view is. What does that mean in TapClicks?
Ooh, the votes are coming in. Man, I do love me a lingo bingo. Like I look forward to the lingo bingos every month because it's always a learning experience. And it's always that fresh, that's delicious lingo bingo flavor. It's always new. It always has that new lingo smell to it. Never gets old. Oh, so we got some votes coming in. Look at the votes coming in. Oh, and you know what I love? What I love is when I see a poll where there's differences of opinion. So we got some different opinions in here. So if you haven't voted, let's see, where are we at? We got 8, 9 of 17. So that means we got a couple people that are not voting. Are we abstaining, or are we accepting abstinations? Is that a word? I don't know.
Yeah, when we put this poll together, we thought about putting none of the above on here, but I will tell you the correct answer is amongst these three. So if
Hmm.
you haven't voted yet, I'm going to give you just 10 more seconds here.
And I mean, that's actually pretty nice of us to put the correct answer amongst the options. I just
Yeah.
want to say, like, we could have not, like, so. All right, looks like we got all the participants. We got seven stragglers. So, we're not gonna force anybody. This isn't we're not gonna death march anybody over into the old lingo bingo. If you don't want to play along, that's fine. My feelings are not terribly hurt.
And
All right.
this mix, it was just kind of across the board. I'm going to share the results so you all can see how you chose to write in here. So we got a little bit in A, little bit in B, little bit in C, but the
Mm,
majority of you picked C, user
mm,
specific permission to view certain data metrics.
hmm.
So the data view. Unfortunately,
Ooh.
that
Uh,
is not what a data view is. I appreciate everyone playing along. For those of you that picked a data view is a group of related metrics in a data source. Now, this does depend on the data source. You could have a single data view. Maybe it's all of the metrics under campaigns, let's say, Brian,
hmm.
or it could be several. So something like Google Ads is going to have several data views. And what we were just talking about would be found under the video data view.
Got it. So Google Ads. So here we're talking about video conversions. Google Ads has a data view, right? Called, or a video data view. So Google Ads
Yes,
has a video data view, and a data view in TapClicks is a bunch of related metrics that can then be used in visualizations or insight. So data view is a TapClicks term related to the data sources that we have. Is that right?
correct. And
All right.
yeah, and really at its core, right, a data view is designed to help you categorize and easily sift through all of the metrics. So Google Ads, there's a lot of stuff. Rather than bombarding you with just an endless list, this
Mm.
data view helps to kind of separate it out. So if you're looking for video, go to that video data view rather than everything with Google Ads.
Of which there's a lot. So it's basically like you could have hundreds of different metrics, and data views are just sort of a data architecture entity to allow you to kind of organize them in like terms. So it's like here, Angela's talking about video. And so it's like, guess what? There's a data view called video because it's all the video stuff. And it's not the same thing as other metrics. Even though you could probably put those two different metrics together into some reports if you wanted to. It's just keep in mind the data view. You'll then see that all over the platform. And if you're not familiar with what data view means, well, we just lingo bingoed it into your world. So hopefully that was helpful.
So Brian, keeping on with video conversions, we did some research to see, what's happening with video marketing in 2021. These are very current stats. Thank you, Wise Owl, for putting together some video marketing statistics. They set out to determine what was happening with video and asked a bunch of marketers, how are they choosing to measure success? So take a second. We have some numbers here on the screen. You can see those percentages, but the number one most important measurement of success is engagement by far, whether that's shares, likes, comments, video engagement. Second, reach. So how far is that video going? How many views? That was second. Then leads and click-throughs, and fourth, brand awareness.
Yeah, interesting. And also video reach and video engagement are pretty close to one another in terms of that value. I mean, I feel like when I go and look at, say, our YouTube channel, right? So the TapClicks YouTube channel, which is, great because there's lots of opportunities, obviously, to see videos of Angela and Brian there. But so obviously it's great. But when I go there, I think the thing I always look at, the first thing that I go and look at is what would be this reach figure. Like, I think that's just, maybe it's vanity or whatever, but I just want to see like that we're getting views. So it's interesting. I wonder what other people think about this question.
Right. I want to call out at the bottom of this survey, only 29% said that sales, like the bottom line, were part of evaluating the return on investment of that video.
Wow.
And in fact, some people reported that, ROI in terms of video is just kind of anecdotal. We don't know how to measure it. That still seems to be a confusing metric in the space of video marketing in 2021. So because these stats are just kind of all over the place, I wanted to find out, for those of you that are engaged in some kind of video marketing, especially this past year, maybe you are new and found yourself doing video, haven't done video before, but I want to have a discussion, like, how are you measuring success? Let's discuss in the chat. I'm going to flip back to our previous slide just so you can keep those measurements in your mind. But using the chat or the Q&A, if you just want to send something over to Brian and myself, let me know what you think is most important when it comes to success with video.
Yeah, I'm interested. Do most people do basically we have like video engagement and video reach as the top two from this survey. Does that align with what everybody else is seeing? Completion rate, Sarah says completion rate, average length of video. Yeah, interesting. Like the average length. I mean, we're in product education, and with education related materials, a lot of that is like what we call like drop off. So it's like, do people even watch? If we make a 2-minute training video, do people even watch? Or if we're 15 minutes into a release notes webinar, like, is everybody asleep?
Everyone's still with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, earlier you mentioned that video reach is important to you, but how many times have we all watched a video, made it all the way through? We hit that completion rate of 100%, but chose to not share, not comment, and not like. So we can't just depend on video engagement, I don't think. Kara has chimed in on the chat as well, that the impressions of video through organic search. So depending on how people got to that video, right?
Hmm.
And the length viewed and how they engage. So kind of a mix of all those things.
Yeah, and it's interesting too with the I like that the length view thing has come up with both Kara and Sarah. Is that when we think about when do we deliver, like when we talk about ROI and we think when do we deliver the message, right? It's like here, at what point in our 5-minute video about our product or about our, service or whatever, at what point in there are we actually delivering that message, right? To say like, hey, click on this link and do this thing, and this is where the business value gets created. It's got to be interesting there. So thanks, Sarah and Kara, for sharing your thoughts on that one. How about we keep going, and we'll get over into the smart connector templates and then also the metrics by data source conversation. So let's keep on trucking there. So great
Keep
discussion
moving
from
along.
Kara and Sarah.
Thanks, everyone. There's one more thing that I want to share when it comes to video conversions and this month's releases. So Simplify also has put together some new video metrics that we can pull into TapClicks. So what these video interactions, there are a ton of them, Brian. If you're looking at those release notes, there are lots of different types of interactions. So you can see start, pause, all those completion rate metrics with percentiles and completions, as well as the clicks on an interstitial or a banner.
Yeah.
Now, this is popping up in the data view for zip plus 4, those zip codes plus the 4. What this means, Brian, is that we can slice and dice by both location and views. So if I want to see how many people started watching my video in a zip code in LA in a very certain neighborhood, that is easily done. But with this level of granularity, we can see how our video campaigns are performing, on a more regional level. We can see who's watching all the way through, how our messaging is performing in regional areas. Maybe this message resonates well in one part of the US and not so much in another. So all of this data can be pulled into TapClicks now if you're using Simplify for your programmatic video.
That's awesome. Yeah, and there's been so much, as you'll probably see if you join us each month, you'll note that there's a lot of activity in the last, I'd say 2 quarters, where there's just a lot of work being put into localization, like getting data sources that'll help you identify more local data. So keep an eye on that. You can kind of go paw back through some of the release notes from the previous months, but you're going to see a lot with programmatic and a lot with local. So if you're not doing programmatic, or you do have a programmatic data source that hasn't been connected, you'll probably find there's a lot of things that you can pull in. So let's go on to our next section, which is going to be led by yours truly. So Brian Childs is going to be talking to you about smart connector templates. Feel free to ask questions as we go along, so we don't have too many of the questions coming through, and also the chat. So again, Sarah and Kara, thanks for sharing some thoughts on the survey there, or on the question. But we can also answer questions as we go along, so it's a little more interactive. So we're not just droning on, which, I mean, we do drone really well, so not a big deal. All right, so let's talk about smart connector templates. I'm going to take us on a little journey to talk about smart connector templates, just so we understand what we're looking at. So just give me about like 30 seconds of prep as we go into this. But let's go ahead and go on to the next slide and talk about smart connector templates. Okay, so when we're creating a smart connector, what is a smart connector? A smart connector is your ability to bring in data from anywhere. Okay, so you know that you can use instant on connectors, which are these where you authenticate an existing data source. But what if I have a CSV file? What if I have like a export from an API and like a JSON file? Or, what if I have data in some hosted location that doesn't actually have an application associated with it? The smart connector allows you to bring in that data. This is the process for building a smart connector, is what we see on the screen here. You basically tell the system where the data is, where you want to pull it from. You grab a little sample of that data. You then do, there's some secondary configurations that are optional if you want to do that. Like if you're using a JSON file, there's some things you can do there. You then map your fields, which means I'm going to take the, in essence, column headers from like a CSV and tell the system, TapClicks, how to interpret those. And then there's some additional mappings and preferences that are there. But the big ones here are tell me where the data is, give me a sample, map your fields, and then submit it for the smart connector. Now, all those different activities, those are all a bunch of steps that you got to run through. So we've developed this thing called smart connector templates with certain data sources, right? These are not instant on connectors, but we've worked with the data sources to identify ways to speed this process up. So let's go ahead and go on to the next slide here. So a template, what a template does is it's basically it's a pre-mapped, it's like the smart connector is pre-mapped. So if I bring in data from a specific data source, right? We may have a smart connector template associated with it, and it automatically will know all those mappings are, so you can just skip straight away over into some of the optional mappings and just setting up your preferences. So this is a quick way to just like jump past a lot of these different steps. So like go on to the next slide with our actual definition of the thing. Smart connector templates, basically it works alongside your data source, or we work alongside data source vendors to create these templates. And that way you can get these smart connectors set up with really the minimum amount of effort. So if we want to know where to find smart connector templates, well, if I go to the data section or data sources, so if I go to data section and the new UI that was introduced last year, and go to data sources, which is available in any instance, you'll see a bunch of tiles within here. And at the top of this page, you'll see that there's a thing called smart connector templates. So you can go down and scroll down to smart connector templates. Those smart connector templates, for example, Hulu, and you see TripAdvisor, those ones down here, if I click on that, that's going to take me through the process of building one of these. So you can find these on the data sources page. And what that does is it just pre-maps all these things. So here we've selected an example. We're creating a smart connector. And instead of me having to go through and make sure all these different metrics are mapped appropriately, the smart connector template just does that automatically. So all I got to do is make sure that, I want to keep all these fields or not, and then I can just move on to the next step. So it's a nice way to save a bunch of time. So if you're using smart connectors, I would definitely check out the smart connector templates. And in our release notes, you'll notice at the very top, we talk about the new smart connector templates that are available to you. And almost every single month, we're going to have new data sources added as smart connector templates. So if you're not familiar with this feature, I would definitely recommend taking a look at it and then also keeping track of that in the release notes as to what's new.
I love those shortcuts and smart connectors in general, but the shortcut using a template really speeds this process along.
Yeah. And then, it's like if anybody's using, as anybody knows, like merging two different data sets together or uploading API files and things like that, like it just takes time. So this can save you a couple minutes. All right. And so so that was our smart connector templates. At the top of the release notes, you're going to see the latest smart connector templates that are available to you. So check those out. That can save you a bit of time. The last thing that we're going to talk about is going to be answering this question of how do I find metrics for data sources? It's a very common question, and it relates to, if we go to the next slide, you'll notice in release notes, every single month, our connector team just cranks out work, and you'll notice that these are alphabetized. So we got, there's a new look back period for Centro. Facebook Ads Insights is upgraded its API. Google Ads, right? There's that video conversions field thing, right? Like, so we just have this huge list of updates, new data views, new metrics, all kinds of stuff that's associated with data sources. Now, one of the questions is that when you see this within the release notes, you're probably like, okay, cool. So I got these new conversion fields for Google Ads. That's great. But what are all the data metrics available for Google Ads, right? How many people have that question? Anybody have that question in chat? Does anyone want to plus one that thing and say, yeah, I have that question? Or in the Q&A? Anybody? No? Okay, maybe not. We see the question happen a lot.
Yeah, we get that question a lot for sure.
Yeah, a lot of folks are sort of interested in understanding, like, what are all the metrics that I can use associated with a particular data source? Okay, well, there's a couple places where you can go to see this. There's a public-facing version of this. Okay, if we go to the marketplace, so tapclicks.com/marketplace, you can see all the public integrations within this place, and that is where you'll get a sample of the different data sources available.
And
Um,
Brian, I really like going to the marketplace to kind of dream up what's possible in terms of my reporting. So, if I, one of the things that we released this month with Pinterest ads, we now have a creative preview that's been added. That's pretty cool. I could see the creative that I'm posting on Pinterest ads. So if I'm just getting started with Pinterest ads and I have not connected to TapClicks yet, I can actually just go to tapclicks.com/marketplace, search for Pinterest ads, and then see all of those metrics. So when it comes to, dreaming up what I might want to report on and gather insights on, if I wanted to put a creative preview next to impressions or some repin data, are we even pulling that into TapClicks? This is a way for me to just check and see what metrics are being pulled into TapClicks before I even set anything up.
yep. And there's another thing too, is if you are looking at new applications, this is also a good place to go. TapClicks, this is like sidebar to this whole thing, but tapclicks.com/marketplace. If you're looking at like, you know what, we really want to get into do some call tracking. Well, guess what? You can go here, click on calling, right? And all of a sudden you have a list of some of the different providers there. So it's kind of neat to see what data is in there. So that's a little sidebar. But yeah, so this is a public facing version of this. This has a sample of the data. We don't put all of the data fields in here, but it's a good, healthy sample for each one of these data sources. If I want to go see for the data sources that I have connected, all of the different metrics, though, there's even a better place than this. So if we go to the next slide, I'll show you how to get here. If you looked at where the release notes are in the support center, okay, there's another section in the support center site as well that's called how-to guides. So if you go to how-to guides, you'll see a section called transform and monitor data, and you'll see this article in here. It says what metrics are available for each data view. You can just go to support.tapclicks.com and just look up data view or metrics. You can just search for it and this will come up. This article will describe to you how to find all of the different data sources, and I'll do like the 30,000 foot version of this really quick. So in this article, it's going to show you that you can go to the data profiles. Okay, so go to your data profiles section. In data profiles, you'll see all the different types of profiles that have been set up. In this case, I'm going to select super admin on that list. Okay, so I select a data profile. In that data profile, what I'm doing is I'm saying, what data can this user type see, right? So what visibility do they have for the super admin? Okay. When I go into the super admin, I'm going to see a list of all of my different data sources, and I can select on that data source, and then I'll look at detail grids. So you'll notice that there's sort of like another level of information. So in this case, I've selected Facebook ads. I've gone to detail grids, and they're going to see two columns. Left column is active column, right column is inactive column. This allows me to move more metrics into the what can be visual, like can be seen by this particular user type. These two columns represent all of the different metrics that are in there. So if you ever have a question about like what's within the ad set data view for Facebook ads, go to the data profile, look at the super admin, go to grid detail or detail grids, and then just scroll down until you see the data view name. And then underneath that, you'll see these columns, and those have all the different metrics. So this is sort of like the back end view of all of the data that's in your system. And so that's how you can go and answer the question of what metrics are there. And when you see new data sources being added, this allows you to kind of go in and say, all right, that's interesting. You've added those things, but where can I find all the other associated stuff with that data view? You know, you said you added a couple metrics to the data view. Where's the rest of the stuff? Boom, just go in here into your data profile, and that's where you'll see it. And of course, you can always reference that article. So hopefully that was helpful. And that's our What's New at TapClicks webinar. We can hang out here and answer a couple questions. I think we already actually have a question. If anybody has any questions or about what we've discussed so far, or if you have just like general questions, generic questions, trivia questions, whatever. Or if you want to talk about The Expanse, which I'm watching right now, which is great, like no spoilers. But so, please let's talk about The Expanse. All right, we got a question from Ashley though. Will TikTok and Spotify be available for a data source soon? TikTok and Spotify. Let's see.
TikTok, Brian. I do not know the answer to that.
Yeah,
just yet.
I'm not
Um,
sure on that one. Let us put it this way. There are always data sources being added and data sources being worked on. And just like any good product manager, when things are being worked on before they're released, they tend not to give dates on it. I'm pretty sure that both of those are being looked at. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah,
And I'm
and
just,
I see Kara's chimed in. Great to hear how many of you are using lots of different data sources. So TikTok, Spotify, and Shopify. Kara
mhm.
mentioned Shopify. But there is more than one way to connect a data source to TapClicks. So Ashley, with your question, I'm assuming that
Mm,
you're asking for an instant on connection, that
mhm.
really easy click authenticate process. I'm not sure when that will be available for Spotify or TikTok. But in the meantime, going back to our conversations around smart connectors, if I have data that I'm receiving from Spotify, maybe they send me an email or I can log into their app, pull data from their API. If I can get that data out of Spotify, then there's a way to connect it to TapClicks.
Yep, exactly. And so any data source, literally any data, as long as the data exists in some place, right? If you're exporting out of either one of those systems, then you can get it into the system using a smart connector. And then I would say if you want a data source, there's always a process of trying to figure out, we have hundreds of data sources. And there's always a process of trying to figure out which one to build next. I know that TikTok and Spotify are both things that are looked at regularly, but I would say go to your account manager and sort of plus one that with them and say, hey, this is something I'm interested in, and let them know if you haven't already. So that's great. Thanks for the question. Anybody else have any questions? Uh, cool. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you again next month. Tell your friends. And feel free to bring up some questions that you have along the way. If you see anything within the release notes, always check those out. Those come out at basically the same time, same bat channel all the time. So if you have questions about the releases, it's a good chance to show up at the webinar and ask some nice questions for us, and we'll certainly try to get answers for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.